What's up, my fellow Las Vegas VIPs? The time has finally arrived. Support for the Guest List podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their fourth-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. Wait for it. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code TheGuestList at manscaped.com. Imagine shaving with a sleek, well-designed, and optimized trimmer that makes shaving time your favorite time in the bathroom. I, for one, am one of the first people to try the new 4.0, and I'm blown away by the performance. The craftsmanship and details on the 4.0 are next level. Guys, I literally just got out of the shower after trying this 4.0 lawnmower for the first time, and I have to say this is a complete different experience from when I was a young college frat boy running around using a traditional razor to shave my family jewels. I can tell you, for one, it does not give a young man filled with testosterone a lot of confidence when you have a cut-up man region and you know when you find a significant other for the night, a flick of the light can end your night in embarrassment. I have all of the confidence now knowing that Vegas is about to open up and I have a perfected, trimmed Manscaped area. Manscaped engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and an incredible, comfortable grooming experience. Their fourth generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. I now feel confident shaving my boys. This upgraded trimmer includes a multi-function on and off switch that can engage a travel lock. It also gives you the ability to turn on the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. The Lawnmower 4.0 even allows you to customize your trim through additional guard lengths with sizes 1 through 4. Did I mention wireless charging? The new wireless charging station uses electromagnetic induction, which can help battery length last longer. Men, if you've been shaving with the same nut trimmer on your face, you've been doing it wrong. No person wants to end up with pubes in their mouth. It's time to get your own ball hair and body trimmer with Manscaped to make me time the best time and enhance your confidence with some nice, smooth boys. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code TheGuestList at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code TheGuestList at manscaped.com. That's right, 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code TheGuestList. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Thank you guys for your support, and now I know that you're ready to hear the show, so get on in there and enjoy the ride. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. That is right. You guys heard it here first. We have a sponsor for the podcast. The show is brought to you by Manscaped. Make sure you guys help me out and show the sponsor some love. Order a product, 20% off. And for those who order product in the first month, we'll be invited to a private event, the belated 1-year Guestless Podcast anniversary party. That's right, Vegas is opening up, so I think we are long overdue. And now, with further ado, I'm sitting here with Carrie Aalberts. She is a gerontologist, might have butchered that a little bit, certified dementia practitioner, and the founder of Dementia Darling. These covers things like dementia and Alzheimer. It is on the rise in America. A lot of people that I know personally have family members who have suffered through this, so I think we definitely need to spread a little bit more awareness and knowledge surrounding this. So I'm very happy to bring Carrie on. So how are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. As we were talking about before we started recording, and I've noticed I say that all the time to kind of introduce the first conversation, but I really haven't figured out how to start these things. So Alzheimer and dementia is something that's run in my family. My grandmother passed away from dementia, and it was at such a young age that I really wasn't sure what it is. And even now, I'm still kind of uncertain because it takes so many different forms and it seems to affect people differently. So just on a very base level, what is the definition of Alzheimer and dementia and how do they differ?
Okay. So that's a loaded question. But first off, we have that in common. I watched my grandmother at a young age. I was 6 when it started to progress, and then she passed when I was 13. And I always wondered what the hell happened, to be honest. It was just very confusing, right? And you just watch this person you look up to just change in weird ways, and you're always kind of
and it stays with you, but it never really is solved because they all seem to have different endings to them.
Exactly. And when you're young, you obviously don't know. That's why I love how many children's books are coming out about dementia and Alzheimer's is really cool. So you got to check those out if you're in that position. But so dementia is an overarching umbrella term of a combination of symptoms, mainly memory loss or, just cognitive issues of some sort. That's grouped together. And Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia, if that makes sense. It's kind of weird, and I still don't fully understand it. And I'm a dementia expert.
Yeah, so. I don't think society has really been able to pinpoint what it is because we haven't even been able to map out the brain and the structures within it. So it's still something that we're just learning every day about what it actually is.
Oh, absolutely. And, dementia, there's hundreds of types of dementia, but Alzheimer's is this main one. It's the most common one we see. That's 60 to 80%, I believe, of cases of dementia. And then, we have vascular dementia that's next, and that kind of is due to restricted blood flow to the brain, after a stroke. And then there's Lewy bodies, and there's alcohol-induced dementia, there's Huntington's. So there's all different kinds. And what with Alzheimer's specifically, why we see memory loss as one of the first markers of someone having it is because the brain cells are being destroyed in the hippocampus, and that's our memory and thinking area of the brain. So that's the first kind of things you can see and think, okay, they might have some Alzheimer's dementia, unfortunately. So it's just scary, and it's intense, and it's messy because we don't really know, like you said, and we can't really give someone a for sure diagnosis with Alzheimer's until they're passed. So it's really messy. It's sad.
So would you say those memories or those lasting memories of your grandmother who passed away from dementia, is that one of the reasons that carried you over into this space?
100,000%.
You must have had a close relationship with her.
Yeah, well, and I was always weirdly attracted to seniors. I love seniors. I think they're amazing, and they have so much wisdom, and they're walking history books, and we just need to take advantage while they're with us. And I'm such a weird kid. When my parents would go on vacations and they'd be like, "What do you want as a souvenir?" I'd be like, "Bring me a grandpa or grandma." And I have 4. I had great grandpa and grandmas already. So I was that kid. And I'm not just saying that. I was that weird. Ask my parents. So I love that. And then when I went to UNR, I was so excited because my parents were like, they have a school of gerontology. You can do this. You can finally take what you're passionate about and make it into a career. So I was, hell yeah, let's do it. And I just signed up for all the gerontology stuff. I got my gerontology certificate, my minor, and then I focused my master's in it and never looked back.
And gerontology is the study of aging, correct?
Yeah, the study of aging. And specifically my, obviously my specialty is dementia and Alzheimer's, yeah.
Wow. How is that program up there at UNR?
Oh, it's incredible. Dr. Peter Reed is the head of that gerontology and a school and the Stanford Center, and he's amazing. It's so cool because I used to be scared of these people, and now they're my peers, and it's just really awesome. It's it's just a really cool full circle moment for me working with people in our community now. But the UNR gerontology school is incredible, and just all the gerontology students are so dedicated to making our community better for seniors. We just want to make sure this experience of aging is as positive as possible so people can thrive in the community as long as possible.
Right. And for something that's kind of a newer I guess, space or I guess industry, an unfortunate industry as a byproduct. Are the common job applications generally to either become an educator or to become like a immediate caregiver? Like what do you generally do once you have that master's degree from the space which you hold?
It's not much.
Yeah, because it's still kind of forming. It's like
hard.
It's tough to understand.
Yeah, people will be like, "What's your degree?" I don't get it. It's been hard for me. If I was a social worker, that would have been a different thing, and people would probably be more open to me if they saw, "Oh, she's a social worker," or "Oh, something they recognize." And I don't have that, so it's been kind of a hindrance. But I play on my passion because that's what drives me. And at the end of the day, whatever I have from school doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, I'm passionate and I will make this happen and try to make this world a better place for people living with dementia and their loved ones. But yeah, that has been hard. It's kind of pigeonholed me. I went into activities directing and stuff because I love that one-on-one. So that was kind of my first route after getting my master's, was how do I get into memory cares? What's kind of a position for me? I guess I'll just start with this activity and enrichment position. And it was awesome. And I learned so much. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess that kind of makes sense. It's when there's well, first we'll say college is, for a lot of us, is not something that it's always cracked up to be. The majority, you're probably one of the few Vegas natives that I've had on here that went and got a college degree and actually applied it in some sort of use to their profession. I went to school for kinesiology, so the study of human movement. Yeah. I used it on a practical everyday use, but did not use it professionally, as most people generally don't, because you realize that once you get that paper, you still have to figure out what you're going to do with it and how you're going to enter this industry. It's just more of it's more validation to show that you can be trained, and that for a space like that, you actually have like the knowledge to apply it to everyday use.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, it is, it's hard because, I still Google, and I'm a professional in this for, almost 10 years. And I still Google, like, what do people with my degree do? Like, what other things can I do? What will people accept me to do with my degree that I have? Because, a lot of people will probably go forward and do more research and maybe get their PhD so they could be a professor. That was definitely a dream of mine. I would love to be a professor. My dad was at UNLV for over 20 years and then ended his career at Penn State. And so I really look up to professors, but I just didn't know if I was ready to go back to school for that long. But yeah, it's definitely hard with the degree I have to kind of figure out what to do. So I'm kind of paving my way.
It appears though with Dementia Darling, and I may be skipping ahead a little bit, but it seemed like you found a nice crossroad with your degree and content creation and collaboration. And also I saw that you had a few speaking opportunities at different health-based networking events or seminars. And you actually have like a nice following, because content creation, it's something that I've been preaching on here. Like, we're kind of moving into this age of the creator economy, this digital economy. So you need to have like an online presence to share your knowledge, and then opportunities seem to find you. That's something that I've kind of noticed with the podcast. And I'm sure you've probably felt similar with just putting yourself out there and your knowledge on Instagram and the internet.
Oh yeah. You don't realize how many people you're going to resonate with. And I mean, dementia touches so many people. And once it touches you, it sticks with you. And I think you kind of seek out the information, and I'm glad to be a resource. But yeah, it is really cool when I look in my messages and I'm like, people actually want to talk to me about this. Like, you're going to trust me. Like, it's just cool that people, big names want to talk to me. And, I'm part of Lisa Gibbons' Care Connection Actionist team, which is huge. My parents had a conniption because they were like, Lisa Gibbons. And, to me, I didn't really know much about her. But hearing from, older generations, they were like, she's huge. And I looked more into it and I'm like, okay, this is a big deal. And so it's really exciting. Yeah, it's cool. And just by putting myself out there and being completely genuine has really done well for me so far.
Authenticity actually translates really well on the internet. Sometimes people lose sight of that with Instagram and, how you only post like positive moments. But even I've noticed that if you post your vulnerabilities, and people tend to identify even more with you. to show that you are learning, right? Like you just literally said that you still Google things all the time, even though you have a master's in this space. And
oh yeah, all the time. And I like to be goofy and just real about stuff because we're all just people trying to get through life and it's hard and it's scary. And I just want everyone to feel comfortable around me when I meet people. So especially with caregivers, I want them to feel like they can tell me when they mess up and they can tell me that it sucks because it does. And you're allowed to be mad. And so I just try to keep that vibe. Like we're open, we're all in this together. It's all good, but it can suck too, but we can just be real about it. So yeah.
So what is the goal of Dementia Darling?
So Dementia Darling literally just started between jobs. I was just like bored and I was like, how can I start something? And I kept thinking Dementia Darling in my head. And I was like, I need to do something with this name. And so I just started an Instagram and I thought it would just be a way to raise awareness. We need to end this stigma. I always use an example, and I'm sure a lot of people use this in my field, but when someone gets diagnosed with cancer, people come swarming and they come with meals prepared and they want to help, right? And someone gets a dementia diagnosis and your friends kind of go away because they don't know what the hell to do because we don't know as a society. So let's break that stigma and not be scared of it. So that was kind of my goal. And then it kind of started progressing and I was like, oh my, people actually care. Oh, okay, awesome. And it just grew from there and I started helping people one-on-one worldwide, which was crazy and weird. Yeah, I've helped people in India, Ireland, all over, in New Zealand. So that's been really fun. And then recently I kind of just thought, this needs to be a business. This is needed. People are coming to me asking for services from me and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just an Instagram, So I've been doing a lot of thinking about that and trying to prioritize my content and how I can deliver it to people, how to deliver education on a one-on-one basis, but also education that's just person-centered. What do they need from me? Because everyone, as we said, is different with this disease. So what do they need from me in that moment? What support? Do they just need a vent? Do they need resource help? What do they need? So working on that right now, working on a business plan and how we can bring Dementia Darling to light. And eventually I would love for it to be a respite and education service.
It sounds like you're kind of diving right down this growing trend of remote services. So we're almost going to be like a remote caregiver in a sense.
That's the goal. I want to help people worldwide and be able to do sessions with them and just support them however I can. And with the studies that I have a team doing right now in our community and all over the Instagram community, they've been interviewing people and what do caregivers want? And a lot of them just want someone to vent to that understands. Come, you can vent to me anytime. I understand it's rough.
Just make sure you have good internet.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna have to buy the Zoom so we can go over 45 minutes. But yeah, no, it's really grown into something. So I'm hoping it just keeps growing.
Do you see any difficulties that you may have to overcome between the growing trend of remote caregivers and the traditional route of being a caregiver in reality, in real life, right? Like if you're caring for somebody who has dementia and maybe they're in their late stages, you have to like physically be present because you have to touch them and kind of guide them. Whereas like maybe with remote working, you're kind of more boxed into like the earlier stages of it.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, we have a lot of long distance caregivers, we call them. So is that kind of what? Like,
yeah.
So if you're not there physically with them, you can still you're still a 24/7 caregiver. You are still on call. And technology makes it available, right? So we can put cameras in their little apartment to see that they're safe. We can put a Ring doorbell to see when they wander out the door, and we can have resources available and utilize people. So like my mom was taking care of her mom who was in Florida. So my mom's here and she did all the scheduling of services. She made sure there was a point person acting as her on the floor in Florida, on the ground with her mom. So she still was all the time doing stuff, but she wasn't physically there. So thankfully it's possible. And I want to be able to support caregivers in that and help them navigate that because it's really hard and they shouldn't feel like, oh, I have to go move to Vegas now, or I have to go move to Florida now. Technology makes it, and resources makes it available and doable now.
So technology kind of creates a multi-pronged approach, right? So if somebody can't be there in the physical room, you set up cameras and then you're like, okay, Carrie, you're designated to watch them through the cameras. And if they leave the room, then you call this person who will then take care of it if this happens. And you're in charge of helping them with food or medication, supplies, different things like that.
Exactly. And I mean, even if you are with the person in the flesh, right, with them, you need to have a team. So no matter what kind of caregiver you are across any time of the disease or any type of caregiver across the lifespan, you need a support group, you need a support system, or it's just not going to work. You're not going to last very long. The burnout is real with caregivers.
Yeah, caregiver fatigue. I talked about this with Bianca McCall, who runs Desert Rose Health Clinic, and that's something that a lot of people suffer from. It's something that I'd suffered from when I was coming right out of high school, kind of caring for my family and mom, and didn't even realize that existed until I had that conversation.
Oh, caregiver burnout's huge. And it's really scary. And so we don't want to ever reach that point where it's a crisis, and unfortunately, I don't know the exact numbers because I always it always alerts me when I see it because it's just so intense. But I remember reading from the Alzheimer's Association a couple of years ago, it was like 40% of caregivers pass before their loved one because caregiver burnout, because they literally work themselves sick. And I've met caregivers that have worked themselves. The stress has led to blood disorders, has led to strokes. I mean, these people are literally working themselves to death. It's outrageous. So they need support. They need this one-on-one personalized support. And that's where I come in, my hope.
Yeah, it seems like you've done a good job. You've been in the space now about 10 years, you said?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working in, I started when I was in college getting my degree. I started in the adult daycare kind of sector, and it was so amazing because it was a half preschool.
What is an adult daycare? I used to own an antique store, and we were right next to something else called an adult daycare. Yeah. It was right off of Tropicana and Spencer area.
Okay.
And I always saw people coming in. I didn't know what an adult daycare was. I was like, you just drop off your grandparents and come back? Like, is that literally what it is?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, okay, so we know senior centers, like seniors go and hang out and socialize because we need to socialize. And it can be harder when you're a senior to socialize.
And senior centers are generally there with a room, right? Those are like long terms.
Yeah. And you can go in and hang out, and it's just a daily thing. You can get a meal. So an adult daycare is a locked setting that's safe. So someone with memory loss can come in. And I think this is the future because memory care is so expensive, good memory care. I worked at a place in Denver that was $8,000 to $10,000 a month. Like, can you imagine? So I think adult daycare is where it's at because that can be like maybe $40 to $70 a day. You get 2 meals and you get to still live at home and you get to thrive in the community longer. So adult day, yeah. So I have like caregivers who they work a 9 to 5. So they drop off their loved one with us and at the beginning of the day, and then they come back after they're done with work, just like they would pick up a child. But it's adult daycare, yeah. And they're in a safe place where they can meet people and, yeah, like I said, thrive and just live happier, more quality lives.
Wow. Yeah. And I could see how that can be much more cost effective.
So much. And you can get on grants and stuff like that to help too. And, a lot of people can go for free, which is awesome through the state and things like that. But the first one I worked at in Reno was incredible. So it was half a nursery daycare and then half adult daycare. And then there was physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, early intervention, everything you could think of. And it was in one place. But the elders got to see the babies and the kids twice a day. And it was so great for both parties involved. This intergenerational, activities are amazing and everyone learns so much about each other. So that's where my heart was like, oh, this is it. I found my calling. And so I've been doing that since I was 19 and I just turned 29. So yeah.
Hey, we're both 29.
There we go.
Hey, hold it down. 92 babies.
Yes.
Let's go. So from your experience over the last 10 years, what would you say is like the most misunderstood aspect when it comes to seniors who have dementia or Alzheimer's?
That they're not capable of giving anything anymore, that they're not capable of people just immediately, you get a diagnosis. Unfortunately, doctors are like this sometimes. They give a diagnosis and they say, here's this, get your affairs in order. Some people can live 20 years with Alzheimer's. So that's not really realistic. We can still have a beautiful life after a diagnosis. And that is so misunderstood with people, because unfortunately, because that's what they're being told, is that it's over, life is over. Nothing is ever going to be the same. No. If I were to lose my leg, my life's not over. It's going to be harder for a little bit while I adapt, and I'm always going to have to adapt. But that's the same thing with dementia. Now we're going to adapt. How can we make life still beautiful and still fulfilling and still have quality life with this diagnosis? We adapt. We don't just say, thrown in the towel, it's going to suck forever. No, that's stupid. And that's how we look at people with dementia and Alzheimer's. We just, they can't, they can't contribute anymore. They can't do this. And we're taking their power from them when we talk about them like that, and we talk through them like that, past them, and we just assume they can't do things.
It makes them feel like they're a silhouette. Yes,
and that's not true. And if people were talking about that, about me like that, I would probably give up too and be like, what's the point? Mm-hmm. So we can't put that on people with dementia. And they feel that. They know when people are talking about them. They know when people are saying they can't do things. It doesn't matter where they are in their disease.
I feel like, if you have Alzheimer, at least there was a famous women's basketball coach, Pat Summitt, who coached multiple seasons while she was pre-diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and still had a successful career, and then retired and unfortunately passed away. But even with that diagnosis, it seems like there's at least a few years of normalcy, or it can extend to where it really hasn't taken complete control of you and like your mentality.
Oh, for sure. If you keep taking care of yourself, oh my gosh. I mean, it's different for everyone. I mean, unfortunately, some people do everything right, and then they have a shorter journey. Unfortunately, you just don't know. But then other people, there's people in our community. There's a wonderful speaker, Nancy, who has been living with Alzheimer's, and she's killing it. I mean, she's written books, she's speaking, and she's had a diagnosis for years. And she's still thriving and able to make it happen. And so we can't just put these labels like you're done. That's not how it works. I also worked with a guy through the Alzheimer's Association. He came to do a 2-hour presentation for a class about memory loss. And he goes, at the beginning of his class, he goes, I have diagnosed early onset dementia. So if I mess anything up, that's that. He didn't mess up a thing.
Wow.
And he had early onset dementia, and he's had it for like 4 years by then. And he was still working and doing great things. And he was doing something in dementia and Alzheimer's, awareness, which was even cooler. But it's just, people are incredible, and we need to stop labeling them and putting them in these boxes just because of diagnosis.
So if you're diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer or dementia, what does it exactly mean? It just means that they found some sort of like decrease in brain matter in the hippocampus?
I'm not good enough to talk about that probably enough, but so early onset is just another type of dementia, unfortunately, that hits younger people. I even have heard of someone in their 30s that was moving into memory care.
Wow.
Like it can hit you really, really young, but 40s, 50s is more common, early 60s. And unfortunately with early onset, that specific dementia usually goes faster than normal. I don't really know why, but then other people, you can get an 80-year-old with Alzheimer's and they can live for 20 years. So, and then someone with early onset might live for 4. So it's very strange. Early onset really it rapidly progresses, unfortunately. Yeah.
I wonder if that has to do with maybe your own personal willpower and mentality, because I know the brain functions in quite impressive ways that can really change your own internal chemistry.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why it's so scary, because I think I was reading it's 40 to 50 cases of Alzheimer's and dementia are preventable.
Wow.
It's just through our lifestyle choices. I mean, only, we used to think it was all hereditary. Like, oh my gosh, my grandma had it, I'm going to have it done. That I thought that forever. I still kind of get nervous about it because I'm like, oh, I think that's still true. But no, they actually came out with 1.2 to 2% of cases of Alzheimer's are hereditary. That's tiny.
That is, extremely small.
Yeah. When I was growing up, I'm thinking it's 90%, you know? And so, so that's kind of nice to know, but it is lifestyle. It's it starts in your 20s. You need to take care of yourself. I believe, I think it was a high number. It was like 50% of, if you're exercising regularly, you decrease your chances by like 50% of dementia. If you're regularly exercising in your later years.
Yes, since it is a disease that inhibits the brain, I would assume you'd have to keep your brain matter healthy in some way. So exercise, increase oxygen flow. Yep. Diet is probably very important.
Diet's huge. Mediterranean diet specifically is like the big one. And taking care of your mental health is huge.
Omega-3s.
Yeah, omega-3s, eat all that salmon. And just being really social throughout your whole life is really important. And taking care of your mental health is huge.
I think the pandemic's kind of shown a lot of emphasis on that and how prevalent socialization is to our own mental well-being.
Oh, yeah.
When we were locked away for 3 months, there were so many people going crazy. Suicide rates were up like 200%. Unfortunate. And now even today, as we record this, there's still this confusion surrounding COVID. And a lot of people in society have kind of just don't care anymore. They're like, I will take the risks because I need to be out there. I need to be around people. I need to take in other people's energy and for me to thrive. Or else you just kind of decompose in your own little box of a house.
Oh, completely. And that's why it's so scary is the isolation for these people with Alzheimer's this past year. I think it said that 17% of cases, it went up 17% of more people passed of Alzheimer's this past year than years earlier because the isolation was so intense, right? It was hard enough for us to be alone. So think about someone with Alzheimer's who couldn't understand why we were alone and why they were locked in their room in a memory care getting their meals from someone in a big, mask, and that's it.
So confused.
That's so scary. It's terrible. I mean, these people, that's why I love being back in adult daycare because I can give them a place to socialize again, and it's like a huge party every day because it's we appreciate it more.
I wonder, or maybe I wonder what social media and the rise of the internet economy will have an effect on Alzheimer, because social media can make us feel so connected to people, but it can also make us feel so distant and isolated. It's really catch-22.
It is. I think if you utilize it the correct way, it can be really beneficial to you. And I think caregivers specifically. 1 in 4 caregivers is a millennial. So millennials definitely were on, social media, and that's how we connect. And that's huge for the dementia caregiver population. They share their stories. They're huge on TikTok. Oh my gosh, there's so many people that have gone viral and have huge followings, and they're just sharing their everyday life with their mom or dad that has dementia or Alzheimer's. And they are able to lift each other up. I see them sending each other Starbucks gift cards, to just get through the day, and they're across the world from each other, and they are there for each other. So I think it's hugely beneficial, especially this past year. I think it's kept us going for the most part.
Do any of the seniors utilize social media in any form? Like, are they able to grasp it or comprehend it?
Depends on the senior. Definitely depends. There's some seniors that follow me and it's awesome. And they're really great. And then, but I definitely don't expect to have a big following of seniors. I see them more on Facebook, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just for them, for their own mental well-being, if they can comprehend it. Yeah. I know some seniors just never really got adapted to the rise of computers and technology and it's kind of prevented them from being social.
Oh, absolutely. I actually worked with a really cool computer called an IN2L, which was through Dell, and Dell made this. It's never too late is what the IN2L means. And it's never too late to understand a computer. And it's literally this expensive computer that seniors can use. And it's all touch screen, and everything's there for someone who would have a memory issues to make it doable. So they could Skype their families with one button, so they could have everything personalized. And it's an amazing computer system, but obviously not widely available to people. But elders didn't get the chance to learn how to use an iPhone. So you hand it to them and they're like, what? What is this? So I definitely think they miss out on that camaraderie. So that's how do we get to those seniors? How do we touch these people that don't use the internet, that don't, maybe they don't even listen to the radio anymore. So how do we get to these people? It's really hard.
So what activities do seniors generally engage in when you're there? Is it just conversation for the most part?
At the adult daycare centers?
Yeah.
Oh, no, we do a plethora of things. We keep them really busy because we want to keep them mentally stimulated. So physically, mentally, spiritually, all around, we want to make sure they're being fulfilled. So I'm always trying to think of how can I meet everyone here at their cognitive level in an appropriate way and in a fulfilling way. So we do a lot of sensory stuff. We do a lot of reminiscing. We do, you have to have routine with people with dementia. So we have a routine every day. We do the same, type of things, but it's, we switch it up and make it fun still.
It's like scheduled.
Yeah, but like we work out every day at 10 because we need to do that. So we work out at 10 and then we do trivia after and then we have lunch and then we do, it's just, you got to keep it regimented for, just for sanity wise, really. It keeps people just kind of, it feels better when you know what's coming. And even if they can't verbalize what's coming next, they know there's a good routine happening and they can feel that.
I could imagine routine being important if you have a mind that you can't comprehend what's going to happen and that's already confusing, some sanity will be brought by a regular schedule.
Well, yeah, and it makes it less scary, right? Like I can't imagine walking into an adult daycare with a cognitive issue and not, and being scared and not knowing people because every day is kind of a new day. So we want to make it as, comforting and welcoming as possible.
You guys play bingo?
Of course, yes.
I had to know if the stereotype was true.
People love bingo. But I know I feel like as I get into more baby boomers, it's going to change a lot. And I'm excited because I'm a Beatles freak. I collect Beatles memorabilia. And like the elders I have now, they're like, oh, the rock and roll my kids listen to. So I'm ready for some baby boomers that like the Beatles, that want to hang out.
I didn't even think about the transition of generations. So right now you have, what is that, the silent generation? Is that what precedes baby boomers?
I don't know is that what they're called? The silent generation?
I think so. Or maybe silent generation was afterwards.
I guess they're not the Depression era. Oh my gosh, that's really bad. I don't know. I don't know what they're called.
I didn't even think about just the different tendencies and interests of the different generations.
Completely different. And I still have some, younger people that are baby boomers and they're like, what is this trivia from the 40s, man? Like, so you got to really meet them where they're at because there's some people that are over 100 and then there's someone who's in their early 60s. So how do I meet them with their interests? So I try to be as person-centered as possible and get to know each individual and what they like. But I think the baby boomers will be really interesting. We'll do some tie-dye in. We'll have some fun.
Do you see, I guess, some of the adults or the elderly who come in, do you see them aging longer? Did you just mention somebody being 100? Have you noticed that people are living longer, or at least the people who come in to see you? Yeah,
no, people are living longer. Like that's just a known fact. The age 85 and up, that's the highest increase of our population. That's the highest group. Like, how do I say it? That's the fastest growing group in all the populations is people 85 and up. So that's great news. But that means more caregivers are needed. That means, more care is needed because people are living longer. And because when people, in the day, if they got, maybe a heart disease or something, or they had heart failure, they wouldn't live as long. But now we have these treatments to help people live longer, right? So, yeah, people are living longer. And also what makes it scary, though, is half of people 85 and up, half of them have dementia or Alzheimer's. Half. That's insane.
That is scary.
And I do want to say one more thing because this fact is crazy to me and we're so close. The leading cause of death for women in California is Alzheimer's. And we're probably pretty close because we are a place people retire to, right? A lot of seniors are here.
Yeah. And Vegas was for a long time one of the top retirement destinations. Now it's becoming a remote worker destination, and it's changing a little bit, but those people who came out here for retirement are now in the 85 plus category.
Yeah. So how do we cater to them? How do we make sure they're living happy lives here? Yeah.
What is the community like, the Alzheimer and dementia caregiving community like out here in Vegas?
It's amazing. There's a Dementia Friendly of Southern Nevada community. Dementia Friendly is awesome. It's just, you can find them anywhere in the country. But so Dementia Friendly of Nevada specifically has just a group of incredible people and wonderful support, wonderful places to go. The Cleveland Clinic. Oh my gosh, the Cleveland Clinic is where it's at if you need help in that situation when you get a diagnosis of any issues with cognitive status. Go to the Cleveland Clinic.
Cleveland Clinic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Lou Ruvo Center is all about helping families that are dealing with this specific issue with dementia, with memory loss. So they're incredible. They're an incredible resource. We're very lucky to have them in Las Vegas. And then as well, WAM, the Women's Alzheimer's Movement, headed by Maria Shriver, who is I want her to know me. She liked one of my posts and I had a connection. Like I was done. She is amazing, but she is opening they're making ground for a WAM center out here in conjunction with Cleveland Clinic, I believe. So we're going to have another center devoted to research for women specifically with Alzheimer's, because 2 out of 3 brains that are diagnosed with Alzheimer's are women. So it's very much so a huge women's issue as well.
Why do you think that is?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. We used to just think because we lived longer, but that's not the truth. Reasons to do with education, reasons to do with hormones, fertility, estrogen. I mean, just a lot of different things that unfortunately snowball and make it harder for women and more prevalent. And then as well, we really need to cater to our other populations. Black Americans are 2 times more likely than white Americans to have a diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's, and Latinos are 1.5 times more likely.
And that probably has to do with income levels and health knowledge, physical activity, things like that.
All these things, education, all these things that are stacked up against us that we need to hopefully we can try to take control of and help ourselves as much as possible. But it's just heartbreaking, the numbers, and it's just growing. It's just growing so fast. Alzheimer's there's like a top 10 list of global deathly global things. And Alzheimer's is the only one out of the 10 that does not have a cure yet.
Yeah, let's hope. Yeah,
we got to have a cure.
Again, it's just because it has to do with the brain, and the brain is just so confusing. Yep. There's so many aspects to the brain between like the actual brain chemistry, but also like what incurs a thought and like why do you think this way, and like neuroplasticity is a big thing. Yep. And how the brain can rewire itself. That was always like a concept that took me away. And our heart and our brain, everything's connected. We just it's scary how much we really have to take care of ourselves. But then you meet people, I met a guy that was a triathlete, just took amazing care of himself, a vegan, his whole life, and still got Alzheimer's. And so it's just like, is that really worth doing all this work if I'm maybe going to get it? But yes, it is worth the work. I promise. It's always worth it. I promise. But pay now or pay later is what my dad says. But we kind of just got to put ourselves first and hope for the best and hope that a cure is coming fast. Yeah. So for all these local caregiving programs, and are these mostly operated through donations and through, I guess, government grants?
A lot of them are through, I would say, the Aging and Disability Services Division, and through the state. I mean, we depend on them for grant funding for money. That's why I'm so excited for Women's Alzheimer's Movement to come here, because they're going to bring a lot of money. They're going to bring a lot of research, and thankfully, Biden brought up how we need to cater to caregivers and how they're being unpaid, and how we need to actually put money into Alzheimer's research, which is huge because we're not putting enough money into it. And it's a lot of government funding, a lot of nonprofits that take this work on.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I do think there needs to be a private public collaboration of some sort. I've had this conversation multiple times on here with different nonprofit founders that the money is good from these nonprofits or from the grants, but the private sector is always does best is optimizing it and putting that capital to work in the most efficient ways possible. So let's hope that center can bring more private funding or more private programs out here to help optimize that money.
That's what I'm hoping for sure. And like with Dementia Darling, I'm hoping to be a company where I can have a way for caregivers to, and just people in general, to put towards like a grant fund for, these millennials, caregivers that can't pay for my services, that can't pay for this much needed support. So how can we, have funding? How can, it would be a dream to like work with Hilarity for Charity. That's Seth Rogen and his wife. They have for Alzheimer's awareness and research, and they give out grants all the time for caregivers to have respite and to just have time to themselves, which is huge. So we need more people like them doing things like that and giving people opportunities to learn and to also get the breaks they need and to get paid for the care they're doing. So it's hard.
To me, it sounds like caregivers is probably the most prominent position within this industry. Are there any positions that you think are needed that haven't kind of grown that would help in this assistance? Like obviously you have caregivers, there's educators, there's donators. Yeah. Like how do you help? How do you, Dementia Darling, how do you grow this industry?
I think Respit Care is like where it's at.
What is that?
So Respit Care is where someone comes in and gives the caregiver a chance to go to do something, and they get time off from caregiving. So you have this time of respite. A lot of places will give you 4 hours a day, and it just gives the caregiver, you can go take a nap.
So it's like a sub.
Yeah, it's literally a sub. Thank you. That's a great, call in your sub for the day. And because these caregivers are tied to their homes, they can't leave. You can't leave a loved one with dementia in later stages at home alone. No. So they are, just chained to their home. So this respite gives them a chance. Go get your nails done. Go see your friend you haven't seen in 10 years now because you've been caregiving. So I think respite is definitely the future. And that's why people come to adult daycare, because they're like, I need respite. I need these couple hours a day where you can, be in charge and I can go do what I need to do for my personal well-being, because it's a 24-hour job. When do they take care of themselves? Yeah. So that respite care is definitely the future, because again, like I said, memory care, that 24/7 care, that, that's $30 an hour to have a caregiver in the home 24/7. That's not realistic. So we need to make respite available for people at affordable rates.
Did you see this movie that just came out recently with Seth Rogen, where he came in and he was his best friend was taking care of his dying wife who had like some sort of cancer, and Seth Rogen played the friend who came in, and it was almost like a respite, and he came in and helped care for him, but he ended up staying with his best friend for like a year while his wife passed away. And I know it wasn't from mental health degradation, but that's the hardest part, was saying like watching your significant other, watching your friend like die in front of you, and just like the chaotic fallout that happens from it. There's like this weird story where I was like almost like crying. I was like, this is like sad to see, because it's like that, it's that side of death that they don't show. You think like if somebody's at the end, you take them to the hospital and then you drop them off. But a lot of they had like notes at the end of the movie there and talk about like a lot of deaths are actually like at home, and like the chaotic surroundings that happen to it is very strange.
Oh, well, that sounds really good. I need to look into that. I love Seth Rogen, but I like that they're showing, the realities for these caregivers, because that's so true. And hospice is incredible because people can die at home in a comfortable setting around people they love, listening and smelling things they love, making it a good environment, which is awesome. And, but I like that it shows how caregivers, that shows that when they're dealing with this huge, terrible thing, they're also expected to still be a normal human and function and still get things done, which is insane.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get things done and be normal and they still have to pay their bills. They still have to take care of themselves and go to the dentist, and they still have to take care of kids a lot of the time, or their own parents, so it's just, how do they take care of themselves?
Yeah. The husband was like falling apart, and like they showed a scene where like the bills were stacking up.
Oh yeah.
And the wife who's the one who was dying was just like fighting him, and you could tell she was like losing, like almost like an Alzheimer kind of thing, like was losing sense of reality. And, you know, they'd like look away for 10 minutes and come back, and she's like killed over the bed, and like all these like weird things that you don't think about, like as somebody begins to pass and fade away. And it's like you like lose sense, or like it distorts reality from how you knew them for the majority of their life, and then those like final moments, because it's not anything recognizable to that person that you know.
No, absolutely. And it's kind of crazy when you hear the stories of, you know, them acting kind of out of it, and then right before they pass, they kind of come to and have this lucid moment, and they say goodbye, which is really
Really
common. Yeah, my grandma had that. So my grandma she is really out of it, you know, not responding, of course, was passing away on hospice at home, and she was holding on, because people hold on a lot of the time for someone to come and say bye, right? So she was holding on for my uncle to get into town, and we kept saying, you know, after he left and he had already come and say goodbye, we said, you know, you can leave now. And while we were all around after he had come and said goodbye, she kind of opened her eyes and looked at all of us and said goodbye, like clear as day.
Wow.
And hadn't been able to say a word for the last week and a half. And it was just insane. And then literally just left. And it was a beautiful thing, because we were all there. And we all got to witness that. And but we knew she was holding on for my uncle. And it's just insane how even when you're at that place and at the end of your journey with dementia, you're still there.
Yeah. I wonder what causes that. That's it's a weird part of reality that we still can't figure out. How do you just snap out of something where you just like haven't been able to comprehend what reality actually is?
Oh, the moments of lucidity are amazing to be around for. I've definitely witnessed a lot of them in my work, and it's an honor to be around for them. I've had a woman who, out of nowhere, I mean, she was just really out of it, and then just kind of went into lucidity, and she looked at me and she goes, "Am I inappropriate?" And I said, "What?" She goes, "What? I have dementia. I know I do. And so am I inappropriate? Do I take off my clothes? Am I rude?" You know, because she knows that's common for some people with dementia. That can happen. And I said, no, you're so lovely. I promise. And she's like, "Oh, I'm so glad to know that." And literally forgot it, and then went back and just like went out of it.
Wow. It's almost like there's two personalities in there.
And you're like, "I'm so glad I was there to tell her, like, she's all good, like, you're fine." And so being there for those, and when they do recognize their loved one, and you really truly see it in their face, and the love and the memories, it's an incredible thing to witness.
So how do you care for someone who's experiencing hallucinations and just the distortion from reality?
You enter their reality. So that's a huge thing, is people living with dementia and Alzheimer's, you need to enter the reality. Of course, if they were having a hallucination that someone was trying to kill them, I would not be like, "Yeah, they are," but like, that's different. But I would try to get them out of that and redirect to something positive. But I mean, if someone is, you know, "Hey, my husband's alive," and they remember seeing him yesterday, but he's been passed for 10 years. Heck yeah, he's alive and he was here yesterday. You're right. You're not going to be like, "No, he passed 10 years ago." So entering their reality is a huge one, and just accepting that their reality is what's happening for them. If that means you're their grandmother and they are 12 years old in their mind, you go with it. I have been someone's grandmother consistently before, and she just wanted to be held by me. And I just held her. I held an 80-year-old woman, and she thought I was her grandmother, and would go, "I love you, Grandma." And I'm like, "I love you too, babe." And I would, you know, call her by what her grandma would call her, and I would just be there. And what I was able to give her in those moments was so important. And it's like, if I had said, "I'm not your grandma," think about what that would have caused. There's no point. So I love going into the reality. I love the conversations I have every day. It's really difficult, but it's it can be beautiful. It can be really, really, really tough, of course. And it's not always rainbows and butterflies, but it can be really cool to be a part of someone's reality in a different way like that.
It sounds like you can, although this whole entire topic could be very somber and depressing, it sounds like there are a lot of playful and fun moments, even in the moments where the person who has dementia realizes they have dementia and they're kind of like playing a joke on themselves about them having it.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously everyone's different and that's not going to happen for everyone, but there's always going to be some beautiful moments. You just have to be willing to look for them, and you have to be willing to be open to them and not, it's so hard. I know when it's your loved one to just be like, well, they're dying. And you're consistently grieving as they lose something more of themselves, because they're just progressively losing more of themselves, right, as they go through their journey. And it can be really hard to look at the positives. I know that. I'm not trying to be unrealistic with caregivers. I'm not like, enjoy it. It's a great time right now. No, it sucks, but enjoy. Like I had a woman, she goes, oh, my husband just won't shut up. All he does is talk. And he's never been like this before, but his dementia's making him talk a lot. And I was like, not to be annoying, but I would really soak it in now, because he might not talk one day. Mm-hmm. And you know what? 2 months later, he wasn't talking. Wow. And she came to me and she said, thanks for that, because I stopped looking at it as an annoyance and I started looking at it as he was trying to just talk to me.
Yeah.
And it's just, you got to try to spin it whenever you can, because it's just so bleak, and so sad, and it's heartbreaking. So, okay, what can we enjoy about the moments we still have together? What can we laugh about, and what can we still, get from each other and fulfill each other from?
Yeah, especially the elderly, as you're saying in the beginning, they're just full of knowledge, right? They're these walking time machines in a sense. So when I was younger, when I was middle school and high school, when I was first experimenting on the internet, I used to always look up letters from the elderly or people who are on their deathbed, writing letters of like, these are the 100 things that I know of my life, or these are the 10 things I wish I would have known when I was younger, and like lists like that. And a lot of those like really hit me hard. And there's one that I kind of still live my virtues from. It was from a letter of, I think the guy was like 100 or a little over 100. And he was like, even as I know I lay on my deathbed, I like still resort back to things that I didn't do in my life, the things that I didn't pursue rather than like the things that I did. And he was like, I lived a good life, but those are the kind of things that I wish I would have just actually pursued, and maybe they wouldn't haunt me like on this deathbed. Do you take away any sort of like common thinkings from being around all of these elderly people?
Absolutely. And actually an activity I've done for years is words of wisdom from the Beatles song, Whisper Words of Wisdom, Let It Be. So I say whispering words of wisdom, and I make books filled with just tips and wisdom for younger generations from whatever
it's the
elders.
Same avenue.
Yeah, and it's so fun. So something that stuck with me, at least when I was first starting in adult daycare, a woman looked, as she is in her 90s, and she knew, I'm a young college kid. I'm so worried about how I look and, whatever. She could tell I'm very, self-conscious, and she could just tell. And she goes, come here. I just want to tell you something. When you get to my age, you will not give a shit. And you need to start thinking like that now. Stop wasting your time. She said, I wasted my time until I was in my 80s. And then I finally realized, who cares? I'm not going to be on my deathbed thinking, oh, my eyebrows were so uneven. No, like that's not how it works. And she's like, live your life. Live it. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you look like. It matters what your heart is and what, how you make people feel. And she's like, please don't waste your life hating your body. And that was my biggest thing I learned. And I like to share it with everyone I meet, because I'm just like, that was a turning point for me where I wasn't going to spend my life doing that anymore. I was like, okay, 19 years was enough. I'm done. And that was it. I'm done with that. Of course, I have hard days, but I always look back to that woman and I think she was right. And so that's a huge piece of wisdom I've learned, is just to live my life and as happy as possible and not worry about what I look like when I'm doing it. And that has helped me get out of my shell. I was really shy, and truly she helped me get out of my shell and learn who I was when I was able to just get rid of that thought. So that was a huge piece of wisdom. And I see that consistently. I see women all the time and they always tell me like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your hair looks like. They say it all the time. It doesn't matter, if you said the wrong thing or if you messed up, and they're just so supportive. And that's what I love about it is, they get it. They see the bigger picture, and they just see that life is more than freaking out about these little things in life. It's about loving yourself and loving your life, because at the end of the day, that's all you have. And so I've just learned so much from them, and they're just seniors are so incredible. And I like how they live with kind of that no F's given type attitude. Yeah. And that's how I try to live.
It's funny because that's the stereotype of like grandpa and grandma is the guy that's like doesn't care. Anytime a younger person comes in, he just gives them completely just the brute thought of whatever's going through his mind, like no hold back.
My grandpa would always say when I would go on a long story, he'd always be like, had to be there, I guess. When I like wanted him to laugh at something, he'd be like, oh, I guess he had to be there. And we taught him to say degaff, and he always said degaff about everything. He just did not care. It was great. So yeah, that's what I think everyone should kind of strive to, just live their life authentically. And I think that's what seniors kind of do, which is cool.
They've seen it, they understand. And when you're older too, and your body begins to degrade a little bit, you're more in tune with your mental well-being. I remember one of my kinesiology classes, there was like this graph of just like people's happiness in life. And it noticed that like your early ages, you're like extremely happy, and then it kind of like craters downwards up into like your mid 40s, I think. And then it's like your happiest is like above 80s. Yeah. It's just like, it was like even past like in your youth years, and that the older people are generally happier because they've become to accept the society and the world that they're surrounded with.
Oh, exactly. When we play bingo, and I'll be 18 or whatever, I always say, who would be 18 again? Or, and none of them say yes. Never would they be 18 again. They're like, no, that sucked. They're like, I would be 42 again, maybe. That was great times. I'd be 65 again. I hear that all the time. They're like, oh yeah, my 60s were the best. And so that gives me hope. They definitely don't think their 20s were the best, or,
Elderly for the win.
I know. Isn't that great to hear as we're going into our 30s? Like,
right. Well, nice. 30 is supposed to be the new 20, apparently.
That's what I hear.
So yeah, I mean, with the longevity increasing, you obviously would hope so.
Yeah. And these people, the people I work with, they feel so young. I love asking what age they feel. Is always fun to hear.
What's the common answer?
Oh, very young. They always feel, not that they would want to go back there to, like I just said, but, a lot of the guys say 19, 24, stuff like that. And then a lot of women say their 40s and 50s. It's just fun. Like, it's just cool to see.
Interesting. Yeah. The men feel youthful.
Oh, they feel so young. and because the filter's kind of gone by then, you can tell they act like they're young boys sometimes. It can get inappropriate. It's awesome.
I love that. Even with the testosterone gone, you can still feel like you could take on the world.
It never ends. Let me tell you.
It's a beautiful moment.
Oh, yes.
Well, as we begin to close this out, I have one final question for you.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Bring it.
It's the same question I ask everybody. What does Las Vegas mean to you?
Community. I think it means, well, it's my home, first off. Home is what I think of. But I know I think it was your year anniversary, you talked about the degree of separation we have with each other, correct? It's like in the bigger cities, it's like 6 people. Yep. And here it's 2 or 3,
yeah, it's
correct?
like 2 to 3, yep.
That's so true. It's just, when you were saying that, I was like, preach, because it's just so true. It's a really cool place. And I feel like we're a very cool and like open community, just like different than anywhere else. So absolutely community. And I think that's just really important, the degree of separation, because we are so close together, and we all, I think, just want to support each other and see Vegas thrive, and providing people with the best possible lifestyle we can here. So yeah, absolutely all the way, community, and just my home forever.
Home forever. Yeah, it's so true. A lot of the Vegas transplants, they always say that they moved out here because of the community, and even working on the Strip for 10 years. a lot of the tourists would just say like, the people who are from Vegas just are so much differently. And I had a guest on here was saying the reason for that is because we grew up with a hospitality first mindset. And so,
you're right.
And we really carry that mindset to things that aren't just on the strip. It's just the way, right? Like when people come in town, you're like, yo, stay at my house, blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing with like, we're just like caregivers. We're naturally caregivers out in the city.
Absolutely. That's so true. Well, and I remember when I was in UNR and, one of my first gerontology classes, they were like, all these people get their degrees here, but then they leave Nevada and they don't stay to better our state. Unfortunately, they go to other places and better their states. And I'm so proud to stay here because I want to better my state. I want to better what we have going here and just contribute to that and just keep making that great name for ourselves. Yeah, for sure.
We're all on the same path. Where do I send the listeners and viewers to follow you along your journey?
My Instagram is my main gig. So at Dementia Darling on Instagram, for sure, hit me up. And then my email is dementiadarling@gmail.com if anyone wanted to reach out. I'm on Facebook and my TikTok's pretty embarrassing. So I don't, but I'm trying.
I did not check that one out. I'm going to have to dive into that
I'm trying. I do not know how to make TikTok. So if anyone wants to help a girl out, it's really bad. I do the same thing every time. I'm like, just doing like weird moments and then adding the text in. It's so awkward. But so hit me up. I would love to help any caregivers that need help or support. I'm here for you. So
yeah, you're definitely on your way. And
Thank you.
I'll definitely be sure to pass a lot of people off to you as more people come through.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Right down the funnel.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Really enjoyed this conversation. Glad to see that you're actually a cheerful person for something that could be so somber. And it gives me a lot of feeling that everyone's in good hands.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jake.
Of course. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time.